moment now they will be going off on their first lap, which is the warm-up lap.
Yes, and most significantly, of course, is the big news is the failure to qualify of the two Marlboro McLarens of Nicky Lauda and John Watson, who had some sort of tyre trouble in practice. They've, as we know, have had difficulty in qualifying with their qualifying tyres. There they go, on the warming up lap. They warm up their tyres, and as I said, Nicky Lauda and John Watson were very unlucky. They had new tyres on Saturday morning for the Saturday qualifying session. They went very well indeed, and then it rained for the qualifying session. They were unable to improve their times on the wet track, and they're out of the race. However, we have a very difficult situation indeed here. You can see on your picture that the track is a little bit greasy. It's been drizzling with rain. Most of the teams, if not all of them, have chosen wet weather tyres, but it's now stopped raining, and the track is not only wet, but it's also very greasy. We've got a lot of oil and rubber down from the other races, at the Renault 5 race a couple of hours ago, and the track really becomes like a skating rink. And so it's a difficult decision for the drivers, because unless it continues to rain or rains further, they're going to have to come into the pits and change tyres, go onto dry rubber during the race, and that, of course, is a tactical decision that can win or lose the race. So today, the emphasis for the drivers is going to be on thinking and tactics. Here they go down by the harbour into the chicane. Alan Prost, pole position after he did so well last year, qualified well, leading the field round. Go into the tobacco corner. But the tyre situation is going to be absolutely critical here, because it's important to get onto the dry tyres as the track dries out. The wet weather tyres won't last if the track's dry, because they're a softer rubber compound, and it'll overheat when the track's dry and there's no water to cool the tyres. Now we go round the Rascasse hairpin. Prost slowing it down, bringing the field into line. He wants to come up onto the grid. He wants to bring them on slowly so that he doesn't have to sit there too long with his engine beginning to overheat and his clutch burning, because to keep the car in gear. Prost is already in position, and the red light will go on when the last car is stopped in position and everybody is signalled. Here they are, forming up.
Now, the first corner at Saint-Devote is always the most critical in the Monaco Grand Prix. We hope and pray that everybody gets round it safely. They haven't in the past, and it's going to be especially difficult this year, with Prost on the left in pole position, René Arnoux desperately anxious to win this race, as is Prost, and both of them desperately anxious to beat the other. Let us see then. Watch for the green. Prost away well, and Rosberg, magnificent. Rosberg up into second place. It's in the lead. Rosberg with a flyer at the start is in second position. In third position is Eddie Cheever. In fourth position it is Patrick Tolfe. In sixth position it is De Cesaris has gone up ahead of Arnoux. So a terrible start for René Arnoux, a brilliant start for Keke Rosberg, and the Finn is really charged up. See him now as they come down past the Hotel Metropole, and he's trying to get right up alongside the leader, Prost.
Fantastic start by Keke Rosberg. He was the first non-turbocharged car on the grid. In 5th or 6th place, he came right through, got the power on the road, as everybody sat there with their wheels spinning, because these cars were 600 horsepower going onto a wet track. And I noticed that Rosberg appears to be on slick tyres, on dry weather tyres, which could be a very significant decision, because it's not raining now, the track is only greasy, and the slick tyres work all right in these conditions, and that will save him 30 seconds or whatever it takes to get into the pits and change the tyres. So Rosberg already looks to be in absolutely charging form.
And as they come down to the Rascat on lap 1 by way of the swimming pool, see how Rosberg is closing up. Cheever is in 3rd position, and here is the race leader coming down to the 2nd gear corner, now into 1st at the Rascat. And it is Prost leading in the RE40 Renault, the man who won the French Grand Prix from world champion Keke Rosberg, whose points for Brazil were disallowed. 3rd is Cheever. 4th is Arnoux, is up into 4th position. In 5th position it is Colbert, and they complete the first lap Rosberg is through. Rosberg is through, and Cheever is in 3rd position ahead of René Arnoux. And look at Arnoux charging through into 3rd position past the Renault. And what a race this is already. 3rd is Cheever. The blue flags are waving. Why is that? That means move over, and De Cesaris is in 7th position. Meantime, Eddie Cheever is 3rd, René Arnoux is 4th. In 5th position, it is Patrick Tambay. In 6th position, it is De Cesaris. So, Renault, Ferrari, down they come past the Hotel Metropole. Don't forget this is the battle for 3rd, and ahead of both of them are Rosberg and Prost. Brown down to low.
Yeah, that looks like Nigel Mansell's car. He can't see what's happened. The car looks relatively undamaged, but Nigel Mansell obviously out of the race. They're going to jack it up, put it on the crane and get the car off the track. But Keke Rosberg looks, honestly, at this stage, and you can't say it this early in the Grand Prix normally, but he really looks as if he's only got to stand up to win that. As far as I can see, he's on dry weather tyres. He seems to be getting at least as much grip as those wearing the wet, and he doesn't have to make a pit stop. In the meantime, René Arnoux is giving it for 3rd and 4th. We have Eddie Cheever. Arnoux got past him once, got slithering about on the wet track, lost the place that he gained. But René Arnoux is certainly in charging mood, and he doesn't want to see the leaders get away. Look at the gap. The leaders are already out of sight. There goes Alain Prost, just out of your screen on the bottom left, and Rosberg is already through and going away.
So, look for Keke Rosberg in the white and green Saudi Williams as the 3rd, 4th, 5th. That's Cheever through in 3rd, and Prost. The lead now, as you watch the battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, is held by Keke Rosberg. He is 2 seconds ahead. There is 3rd man Cheever, 4th man René Arnoux. They're coming up to Saint-Devot. And Arnoux has charged his way through from 6th place after a bad start to the 4th position that he's currently got. Towards us, Cheever 3rd, Arnoux 4th, Tambay 5th, De Cesaris 6th, Lafitte is in 7th place in the Williams, and we are looking at Cheever and now René Arnoux. But meantime, in front on the 3rd lap, it's Keke Rosberg leading brilliantly by 2 seconds now from Alain Prost, who led for so long last year. And Cheever is holding them up, of course. He's enabling the front men, that is to say Rosberg and Prost, to pull away. And you can see the long snake of cars developing behind in 3rd place man Eddie Cheever.
Yes, absolutely right, Murray. This is the age-old problem of Monte-Carlo. Here we see Keke Rosberg. They pulled a huge lead. Rosberg pulling away from Alain Prost, and then there's a huge gap where, as you rightly say, Cheever is holding up the rest of the field. And it's the age-old problem of being able to overtake at Monte-Carlo, which is always so difficult, almost impossible in this type thing, unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake or otherwise assists you and actually helps you pass. To find a way around is difficult. René Arnoux is climbing all over the back of Eddie Cheever's Renault, and at the moment he's got no answer for it. There goes Alain Prost. Keke Rosberg on absolutely brilliant form. He was all charged up for the start. He made a superb start. Got into 2nd place on the first lap, nipped by Alain Prost, and I can't be absolutely sure that he's free, but if he doesn't have to change the tire, he's got a huge lead on the others. He's on here.
Yes, Keke Rosberg is now 4 seconds ahead of Alain Prost in 2nd place, and with that gap developing behind the 2nd place man Prost, who is in the yellow car going round the hairpin there, Cheever and Arnoux are absolutely wheel to wheel, so watch for them. And Arnoux, as I talk to you, is up into 3rd position.
That was very interesting. I don't know whether you noticed, but Keke Rosberg, going down into the Mirabeau corner then, went right down the inside line, which is not the obvious line to go on, but he would in that case be searching for grip, because on the normal racing line there will be a lot of rubber and oil down, and add a bit of rain to that, it makes it very slippery, and sometimes it's quicker to take the wrong line and get more grip. So he was searching for the grippiest bit of track.
And there's Prost in second place, and the gap between the leader, Rosberg, and Prost is now 5.6 seconds. So, whichever tires they're on, definitely with Arnoux there in third position, Keke Rosberg driving absolutely superbly, surely never better. Here he is coming up to complete his fourth lap in this 76-lap race. He's pulling away, totally unexpected, from Alain Prost. And in third position now, it's René Arnoux. In fourth position, it is Weber. The gap is increasing. There is Rosberg, 5.7 seconds now, as he goes up the hill towards, and that, number 26 off there is Raoul Vassell out of the race, the Frenchman in the leisure.
It'll be interesting to see if Jacques Lafitte and into the pit, Nelson Piquet, probably to put on dry tyres. Like a routine stop, but it'd be interesting to see if Jacques Lafitte, also from the Williams team, started on dry tyres, because it was really obviously the right decision, unless it was going to rain again. The track was only greasy, the slicks work okay, and I'm very surprised that so many of the drivers went for wet tyres, because the positive gamble is always to go for the dry rubber.
Let's explain this again for those of you who are probably watching the Monaco Grand Prix as one of your first Grand Prix. You can drive either on what are called dry tyres, which literally have no tread. Look very closely at those of Keke Rosberg, the leader there on lap 5 out of 76. Or you drive on wet tyres, which have a heavy tread designed to clear the water. And that, I know, is what Alain Prost is on. There he is, and both he and Eddie Cheever went out on these heavy-treaded wet tyres at the beginning of the race.
Yes, and Prost would be very well advised to come into the pits as soon as possible, and the feet must be on dry tyres, because you see how well they're working. There is Jacques Lafitte pressing René Arnoux up into fourth place, and it's obvious that those who pick the dry tyres have done right so far. The only hope for the people on the wet tyres is that they get a quick downpour now, and therefore don't have to stop.
Lap 6, and Keke Rosberg on dry tyres is leading by 12 seconds from Alain Prost. There is the battle for third between René Arnoux and Jacques Lafitte, who has charged up through the field. In fifth position now, it is Eddie Cheever, and in sixth position, going magnificently, is Marc Surer. Marc Surer is coming up. No, it's Patrick Tambay now in sixth position. So there is the battle for third. And, as I say again, on lap 6, there is Jacques Lafitte challenging René Arnoux as they come down to the right-hand end of Mirabeau.
Yeah, well, I think it's only a matter of time before Lafitte gets him, and it really does look very much like a Williams 1-2. They've only got to take it easy. If Ricardo Patrese in the pits, he's gone on to dry tyres, but the mistake and the bad decision's already been, and there is René Arnoux having some sort of a drama, and he has, it looked like he damaged his wheel on the curb, or damaged the rim. He's knocked the tyre off the rim, he's on a puncture, and he's going to have to limp round to the pits and hope that that tyre doesn't come apart and damage his rear suspension or wing, because when you drive around at speed, the tyre has a tendency to fly apart. Anyway, Arnoux goes out of third place. That moves the feet up into third. He's now chasing Alain Prost, who will have to make a pit stop.
Alain Prost goes by Arnoux. There goes the inside. The inner half of Arnoux's wheel is off altogether as he limps round the swimming pool, and they're surging past him, and amongst them there is Derek Warwick. And Derek Warwick is now in ninth position at the Coleman, and Arnoux is fighting to control his car. This is almost exactly where he went off last year in the Renault. He's coming out of the swimming pool and down to the rat can. How much longer is that left rear tyre going to stay on the remains of the wheel? And he's left metal on the surface of the course, and it looks to me as though René Arnoux is just going to manage to limp back to the pit.
Yeah, he's lost some time, and as you probably saw, there were bits and pieces coming off his car all the way around, and his front suspension is damaged by the look of it. Yeah. René Arnoux, unfortunately, that's the problem when you get a puncture. It does a lot of damage in the car, and he seems to have stalled his engine, so it looks like René Arnoux' day is gone.
Well, in an exciting already Monaco Grand Prix, lap 7, Keke Rosberg is leading by an increasing margin from Alain Prost. In third position now, it is Jacques Lafitte in the Williams. In fourth position, it is Eddie Cheever. In fifth position, it is Patrick Colbert. Sixth is Duchesneau. Seventh, Sura. Eighth, Jarrier. In ninth position, it is Derek Warwick. Nigel Mansell is out of the race, so is Raoul Purcell, and so now, as you see, is René Arnoux, and this is now lap 8 out of 76, as the stricken Ferrari and a bitterly disappointed, miserably unhappy René Arnoux is pushed into the pits, and that means disqualification quite apart from anything else if he tried to restart. Well, as James says, it looks as though the suspension is damaged and the bottom and the back of the car will have been dragging along the ground. And now Jacques Lafitte is in second position. So, on this auspicious 8th lap out of 76, Keke Rosberg leads his teammates. The two Tag Williams cars with their Ford Cosworth engines are in first and second position. Prost has been into the pits. Alain Prost, unseen by you, seen by us, has gone into the pits and changed to dry tyres on lap 8. And that means to say then that the Williams cars have got every chance of continuing in their first and second places to the end of the race.
Yeah, they made the right decision. They went on dry tyres, and I just don't understand why most of the other teams went for wet tyres, because it was really a very negative decision to do that. You still have to make the stop. You can see how wet the track is off the line, but on the line it's drying out nicely. Rosberg is just driving away from the field. Jacques Lafitte, who also would appear to have started on dry tyres, is going with him, and already they have Rosberg is 51 seconds. There is Keke Rosberg. He's 51 seconds ahead of Patrick Tambay in third place. And Tambay, I suspect, although I haven't had a close look, I suspect is on wet tyres and will have to make a stop, and thereby further opening the gap. So it really does look as if the Williams only have to stand up to win.
There is Rosberg coming up behind, soon presumably to lap Riccardo Patrese in the turbocharged Brabham BMW. And Keke Rosberg is particularly psyched up because he got the news here at Monaco that the appeal against his disqualification from second place in the Brazilian Grand Prix for being push-started had been disallowed, which means to say that he lost the 6 points he might have been entitled to, and it means to say that the reigning world champion that you're looking at now is only in 8th position with a mere 5 points after 4 Grand Prix in the World Championship. There is the second of the Renaults in the pits, that of Eddie Cheever getting dry tyres, and that's on lap 9. René Arnoux has rejoined the race, and on lap 9 it is Keke Rosberg leading. It is Jacques Lafitte in second position. In third position it is Patrick Colbert. In fourth position it is a brilliant Mark Sura. My goodness, this is the man of 1983. In fifth position it is Derek Warwick in the Toleman is in fifth position, and in sixth place, having changed his tyres, is Alain Prost. Now, I'm looking very quickly down my checklist, and I can tell you that Derek Warwick started or came out on slick tyres originally. Now, I don't know whether he went to change to dries just before the race began, and that'll be interesting to observe. Meantime, there they go. There is the Brabham of Riccardo Patrese rounding the left hand, the right left-hander at the hairpin, and there's Arnoux stopping again. René Arnoux, for whatever reason, is stopping as he comes out of the chicane on the 10th lap in this 76 lap race, and definitely the Ferrari as Mauro Baldi goes through, chased by, there is Chico Serra, and Chico Serra is in 9th position, and there is Keke Rosberg, who has got past, as you saw, Riccardo Patrese, last year's winner. Down comes the giant sling from one of the many cranes around the circuit to get the Ferrari out of the way of the rest of the competitors. And Jarier now has got the race leader, Keke Rosberg, behind him as they come round the right-hander of the Rascas at the end of lap 10.
And it'd be interesting to see if Rosberg can get past Jarier, because Jarier has recently developed a reputation unhelpful when being lapped, and so it may be a little bit of a problem. Rosberg is right in the middle of the traffic, and they're all having their own race. They won't be looking at their mirrors too hard, so Rosberg is going to have to find a way around. Now this is an important test for him, because as Murray rightly said, and we said before earlier this season, he's very psyched up, he's very charged, he's confident, he's world champion, but he has to cool it down. He's very confident, he's been calm there, but he gets past the Tyrrell, but he's doing quite well sizing through that mob. But the one thing he can't do, he's got this race won. Now he must not make a mistake. And Monte-Carlo is an extremely crowded circuit with no space for anything.
Lap 11 now, and in this exciting race, as you look at the leader, and a dry line is developing all the way round the course, and that's very good news for Rosberg. And there, René Arnoux walks in. Rosberg is leading. Lafitte is second. In third place is Patrick Coulthard in the Ferrari. In fourth place is Marc Surer. In a magnificent fifth is Derek Warwick. Sixth is Alain Prost, who has changed tyres. Seventh is De Angelis, and eighth Piquet.
We just pull away for a couple of seconds there for news for the cricket enthusiasts amongst you, and it's not good news. Still ruling the roost.
It's full of the wave, but Jarier is a bit like a waiter, professional deafness. He actually employs professional blindness as far as his mirrors are concerned.
Well, Keke Rosberg is as equally determined to get past, and he's done it. He's got past Jarier in the tunnel. As James was saying, Jarier is notably unhelpful this season at letting people get past him. But now Keke Rosberg has gone right through the bunch of competitors who were in front of them. He's lapping people left, right and centre. He is on lap 12 out of 76. He's driving the rest of his considerable career at the present moment. And this, believe it or not, is a man who had only got 6 points in his career up to 1981 because he didn't have the right machinery. Now he's up behind Eddie Cheever, and this is going to be very interesting because Eddie Cheever, who has slipped down the field and is currently in 8th position, having changed his tyres, is on tyres, fresh rubber, and is Keke Rosberg. You can see Keke Rosberg's slipped tyres there. He goes right-hander and Sandervot up the hill towards the Hotel de Paris, round the left-hander behind Eddie Cheever. And so this is a battle on the circuit. 8th place man Eddie Cheever, the American, driving for his first year in the Renault team. And he is 8th position, a lap behind on the course. Keke Rosberg, number 1 there, the race leader, lap 13. And the positions behind Rosberg are second, Jacques Lafitte, 15 seconds behind number 1 there, the world champion, Keke Rosberg. Up into 3rd position now, and this is quite incredible. Marc Surer, the Swiss driver, who's in 9th position in the World Championship with 4 points in the Arrows, and that is the team for which Alan Jones has driven this season. Is he going to renew his World Championship driving next year? Well, he must be sorry if he's not here, those of you in Australia who are watching. And as you see, past the gap between Rosberg and Lafitte is now 18 seconds, that's first and second. Jacques Lafitte is actually the fastest man on the circuit at the present moment, just over 1 minute 32, and that is some 6 seconds outside the lap record. But the drivers are speeding up as the course skies are getting brighter and the conditions are getting better.
Yes, well, the Lafitte has been catching Rosberg, but I suspect that has a lot to do with the fact that Rosberg is stuck in traffic. He's been lapping the back markers. Lafitte, of course, still has to lap all the same people. At the moment, Rosberg is behind Eddie Cheever in the Renault, and it's going to be quite difficult for him to get past. Cheever is pretty quick, and the power of the Renault will make it almost impossible. But in fact, Cheever's opening a little bit of a gap. But it's a question, really, of, at the moment, what the Williams team will do if the Feet can confirm that form and catch Rosberg, whether they will have team orders or instructions and what to do. And there we see a new fast start from Ricardo Patrese. So the times are coming down consistently. The track is nearly dry now. That's very close to the sort of dry time you'd expect.
And what a complete vindication for the decision of Frank Williams, Patrick Head, Keke Rosberg and the rest of the Williams team personnel to send out their drivers, Rosberg and Lafitte, on dry tyres when the conditions were anything but suitable for dry tyres when the race began. Because now Keke Rosberg and Jacques Lafitte are very much controlling this race from the front in first and second places, with Marc Surer there 47 seconds behind Jacques Lafitte, and it is Ford Cosworth powered cars completely against expectations, not just in first and second places, but in third position as well. And there, in fourth position, rounding the hairpin, is Derek Warwick. Derek Warwick, who had the most dreadful luck in practice with any kind of trouble and even blew a turbo in the warm-up half hour today, is in fourth position, and he is driving on a new type of tyre construction in fourth position. The turbo is seemingly going well. Behind him in fifth position is on the road and in the race. You can see now Alain Prost and then Nelson Piquet. So there is Warwick. There is the fifth place man Prost, and behind him is Nelson Piquet in sixth position. So this is the battle for fourth position that you're looking at. Warwick, Prost, Piquet, fourth, fifth, sixth, Tolman, Renault and Brabham. All turbocharged. The Hart engine in the Tolman, and now Prost is trying to get past Derek Warwick at Saint-Avold. This is lap 15. The fourth, fifth and sixth men absolutely together, and Derek Warwick showing that the magnificent driving ability he showed in last year's British Grand Prix is his, and showing it again today.
It's a big testing for Derek Warwick, because he's got Prost and Piquet breathing heavily down his neck. If he makes no mistake, it's obvious that they're a little bit quicker than him, but if he makes no mistake, they will not be able to get past. So it's a test for Derek Warwick. The one thing he doesn't have to worry about is going quickly, and that's one of the alphas, I think, going into the pits, probably for a tyre change. But there's that battle for fourth place. Yeah, and that is De Cesaris into the pits. Let's have a look, see if he... No, and that looks like the end of his day's work. He's getting out and shutting up shop.
De Cesaris out, as is Nigel Mansell, as is Raoul Boesel, as is René Arnoux from the 20 starters, lap 16, and the real excitement at the moment is not so much the leader, Keke Rosberg, not so much the second place man, Jacques Lafitte, or even the magnificent Surer in fourth place, but this race, because there, fourth, fifth and sixth are Derek Warwick in the Tolman, Alain Prost in the Renault, and dropping back now, Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. And Patrick Tambay there, fastest on the course at the present moment, 1:29.3, 3 seconds outside the lap record. And Derek Warwick, look at the way this young man from Hampshire, Derek Warwick, 28 years old, from 4 marks, only in his 17th Grand Prix, is staving off Alain Prost, who many people fancy for the World Championship, and who is currently leading the World Championship with 15 points, sharing the lead with Nelson Piquet. But down now to the tunnel under the Sloane Hotel for the 17th time go Warwick 4th, Prost 5th, Piquet 6th.
And it's really a terrific test for Derek Warwick. Alain Prost is climbing all over the back of him like a rash. And that is very difficult to drive, because you obviously look in your mirrors a lot and you see this person darting about behind you trying to get past, and it's very easy to have your concentration thrown when you're defending the position. And Warwick is so far standing up to the test extremely well. He's looking very cool, comfortable. He seems to be ignoring Frost's manoeuvres behind, and so long as he keeps doing it that way, he'll keep Frost behind him.
Lap 17 then, and as Frost tries to take Derek Warwick at Sandervoort again and fails, it is Keke Rosberg leading. It is Jacques Lafitte in second position. Third position, Mark Fura. There you see the confirmation of fourth, fifth and sixth, and what you may say has happened to Patrick Colby. The answer is that Patrick Colby has been in to change his tyres and is on lap 18 in 11th position. Down to the Mirabeau. Warwick, Prost, Piquet holding a little respectful distance. I think he's keeping a gap between himself and the two cars in front, perhaps deliberately giving them breathing space. And Derek Warwick has, with considerably less experience than Prost and Piquet behind him, shown us that his promise was more than justified. He's driving like a veteran. Don't forget that Derek Warwick is actually a double world champion already. He's been stock car world champion in 72 and 73. He was a champion of Formula Ford. He was a champion of Formula 3. He was second in the Formula 2 European Championship in 1980 before he moved up to the Tolman team, and he's showing championship status here at Monaco on lap 18 in fourth position, followed by Prost, there he is, followed by Piquet in sixth position. They are rounding La Rascasse. They are up into fourth gear, to fifth gear, to 150 miles an hour as they approach Sandervoort, and again Prost tries, and again Derek Warwick coolly holds the inside line. Goes a bit left, goes a bit right. You'll notice that nobody's going on the right-hand part of the circuit here, and you'll see that that is because it is wet. They are staying on the dry line. And the very, very determined 28-year-old Derek Warwick on lap 19 with 57 laps to go is holding his position. And the order is Rosberg leading, Lafitte, Sura, and Warwick, Prost and Piquet with only 6 seconds between Sura and Warwick.
Despite the fact that Derek Warwick is doing everything right at the moment, you can probably see the frustration for Alan Prost, because there's no doubt that if he could get past Derek Warwick, he'd be able to go quite a bit quicker. He's definitely being held up, and he needs to get past to get after Mark Sura. And that, of course, is the character, albeit the bad character, of Monte-Carlo, in that it is really a no overtaking circuit, and your qualifying and your start are so important that once you get running, if you can do what Derek Warwick is doing, just keep it on the line, keep it steady, you're almost impossible to overtake.
How nice it is to talk about a new British driver doing so well in a Grand Prix. Is Prost going to try again? Well, this time he stays behind Derek Warwick. You see a spout of flame. Don't worry, that doesn't mean to say that he's in trouble necessarily. It is the turbo, in effect, backfiring. You get some excess petrol as he backs off, and that burns in the exhaust pipe with a great spout of flame. Warwick's had 2 or 3 turbos go in practice. There was one fitted earlier today, and hopefully it will last the race. And a word here for Brian Hart, the brilliant British engineer whose engine is propelling the Tolman of Derek Warwick, because Brian Hart, having made a name for himself in Formula 2 and rally, has produced this turbocharged engine on a shoestring budget compared with Renault and Ferrari and BMW, who are in the big league as far as turbos are concerned. And what a super job Brian Hart has made of that engine. There is Warwick and Prost, and now Piquet. That's where Prost went off last year. They go into the swimming pool section. That's the third gear bend here. Now into the little straight, into the right-hander at 60 miles an hour, out of the left-hander, change up into third gear. Nigel Mansell has got back to the pits. And no, that was De Angelis. I'm sorry, made a mistake there. Elio De Angelis has been into the pits and out. and he was in ninth position. And as I talk to you now, and you look at Alain Prost again, trying unsuccessfully to take Warwick at Saint-Avold on lap 20, it is still Rosberg, magnificently his teammate. In second position, Jacques Lafitte. In third place, and unfortunately we haven't seen him at all, Marc Surer. In fourth position, it's still Warwick. Fifth, Prost, there he is. Sixth, Piquet, there he is.
And Prost is maybe close enough to have a go. He just lost a little bit of ground coming out of the casino track. Down into the Mirabeau where they are now is probably his best chance to overtake. He has a look every lap as they come past the pits and go up to Saint-Avold, but unless Warwick makes a mistake out of the corner, the one before, Prost has got more chance of being struck by lightning than driving around the outside of him there. But that is his problem. He's stuck behind Derek Warwick, who, as I said before, is doing everything right. He's keeping it cool, steady, and just leaving no opening.
While we are rightly watching this terrific scrap for fourth position between Warwick, Prost and Piquet, where, you may wonder, is Keke Rosberg in relation to these three? The answer is well on his way round the lap that they are completing now. And as they come out of the Rascasse, I'll give you the time gap between Rosberg and the battle for fourth position. You can see there is Gavin Prost trying very hard at Saint-Avold, and again Derek Warwick will have nothing of it. And Keke Rosberg in the lead in the Williams on lap 21 is leading the battle for fourth position by 50 seconds. He is some half a minute ahead of his teammate, and Jacques Lafitte is some half a minute ahead of Marc Surer, who is 7 seconds ahead of this battle for fourth position. Warwick, there you just saw Surer disappearing from sight. And these three, as I have said before and will say again, are actually holding each other up, leaving Rosberg, who is driving by himself at the present moment, and Lafitte and Surer, both of whom are in the same situation. Plenty of room to increase their lead, because Warwick has also got to think not only of the best racing line, but how to keep Prost back. Prost has not only got to think of how to get ahead of Derek Warwick, but he's also got to think of how to keep Nelson Piquet behind him. So I suppose of these three, Alain Prost has got the hardest job of all. And there, behind Alain Prost, is Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever is joining the fun. He's closing up in seventh position. Look for the yellow Renault behind these three of Eddie Cheever. And there he is, Cheever in seventh place. So, fourth, fifth, sixth, and Piquet trying to take Prost in fifth position, and Eddie Cheever is taking advantage of the fact that these three are climbing all over each other. There he is in the background, closing up on lap 22. And on lap 22, gaining on this lot is Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg has come right up through the field. He's not all that far behind Eddie Cheever, and that shows you how magnificently the Flying Finn, Sir Keke Rosberg in Finland, because he has that title after his World Championship win last year, is closing up fast. There's Warwick fourth, Prost fifth, Piquet sixth, and Cheever in seventh position. Into the tunnel. Warwick pulling away at Piquet, going through, taking Prost, is he on the inside line of the tunnel? That's fantastic. Piquet has taken Alain Prost and fifth position.
And I think Prost must be in some sort of trouble, because he slowed down a bit, and Eddie Cheever's right up behind him, the teammate there. He'll probably let him through. Well, he wasn't that friendly to his teammate, but there's definitely something wrong with Prost's car. It's not outwardly visible, but he slowed right up. And now it's Nelson Piquet's turn to have a crack at Warwick, see what he can do about it. In the meantime, it's given Warwick a little bit of a breathing space. He's got away a bit, and Prost holds up the other. Prost not being very helpful to his teammate. Good old within the team friendliness going on again. Renault have had trouble with that before. If you remember, last year we had all the dramas with Alan Prost and Remy Arnoux, which ended up in a major split. Arnoux leaving in a huff and not thanks very much for his help in the team. And Prost seems to be being fairly unfriendly again.
And that gives Warwick the opportunity to pull away. But the interesting thing about this is that Nelson Piquet and Prost have both currently got 15 points and are leading the World Championship. Now Piquet has got ahead of Prost, and if Cheever gets ahead of Prost, that means to say that Eddie Cheever will go up into 6th position, and Prost will be out of the World Championship points situation, and Piquet, who is now in 5th position, is on his way to 2 points if he keeps the race distance. But on lap 24, as we look at the battling Renaults of Alain Prost, who is in 6th position, and Eddie Cheever, who is 7th, and there behind them is Keke Rosberg. Well, Keke Rosberg is really going to put it across the Renaults in a minute. You can see it there. Now, there are the Renaults, 6th and 7th. You should next see Keke Rosberg, who's lapped the whole field up to 7th place. Saint Devant, Cheever number 16. Ahead of him, the team leader, Alain Prost. 6th and 7th. Round the Massenet, into the downhill plunge to the Mirabeau. Alain Prost, of course, will know it's Eddie Cheever behind him. There's Derek Warwick rounding the hairpin, ahead of Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham, who is in 9th place, having changed his tyres. And as we look at Prost and Cheever, 6th and 7th on lap 25, out of 76. So therefore, roughly 1/3 distance. It is Rosberg leading, Lafitte 2nd, Shearer still a superb 3rd, Warwick in 4th place, Piquet in 5th, Prost in 6th, and there's Cheever in 7th position. The gap between Keke Rosberg and Jacques Lafitte, 32 seconds, and Jacques Lafitte is some 45 seconds ahead of Mark Shearer, who is now 6 seconds ahead of Derek Warwick. There is the race leader, Keke Rosberg, on his 25th lap, which is exactly 1/3 distance, round the first gear rat cap, up into 2nd. This is the man who has been going to bed at 9 o'clock ever since he got here, who has been taking it as easy as he possibly could in practice sessions, because he has a virus infection which has had a very debilitating effect on him. It's made him very tired, and going these 76 laps are going to be very, very tough for Keke Rosberg. Here is the race leader, the brilliant world champion from Finland, Keke Rosberg, who finished 2nd in Brazil, was disqualified, failed to finish at Long Beach, finished 5th in France and 4th at San Marino, who last year had 1 win only, and that was at Dijon in the Swiss Grand Prix, but he had 4 second places, 2 third places and a 4th, and this year won the Race of Champions at Brands Hatch, where he also took pole position, and has got the most incredible reflexes. Watching him in practice here at Monaco has been an absolute joy and delight. And incidentally, you can see with these cars this year, without the skirts, which had the effect of pulling them down towards the ground and increasing the road holding of the tyres, how very much harder they are to drive, and how it brings out the best drivers and really shows us who are the top men. There is the top man, number 1 world champion, leading the 41st Monaco Grand Prix as he completes his 26th lap. 2nd, Lafitte, 3rd, Shearer, 4th, Warwick, 5th, Piquet, and 6th, Prost.
Well, what a hectic race it is. There's a long way to go. Still out front.
Rosberg needs to find matters of interest to keep his concentration going, particularly as he's been suffering from a viral infection. He'll be not at his best physically. He'll need to keep the adrenaline up, and with a big lead like that, that's not easy when he's got no traffic in front of him. He needs something to do just to keep the mind stimulated.
Now look at this as they come down to the Portier. There is Cheever still in 7th place, chasing Prost, who is in 6th. Nelson Piquet is trying very, very hard, having disposed of Prost, to get ahead of Derek Warwick. And Derek Warwick is in 4th position. There's Piquet 5th. Ahead of him, Derek Warwick. Behind him is now Cheever's trying again to get past the 6th place man, Alain Prost. Patrick Tambay is fastest on the circuit, and this is lap 28. And Patrick Tambay has been lapped, of course, when he went in for tires. Now there's Warwick 4th, Piquet 5th, Prost 6th, and Cheever in 7th position. Coming up behind Eddie Cheever is Kenny Rosberg, who is very shortly going to be catching. And there's Cheever through. Cheever is through into 6th position on lap 28, and Alain Prost is out of the World Championship points, which means to say that now Nelson Piquet is leading the World Championship. That is, of course, if he finishes in the top 6 and Alain Prost does not. But there's a long way to go yet, 47 laps to be exact. Eddie Cheever then driving a turbocharged car for his first season. Now, is he going to catch Nelson Piquet, who is 5th, and Derek Warwick, who is 4th? Watch this again as Piquet, there goes Piquet through, and here on the right is Eddie Cheever passing Alain Prost on the outside, and that proves that there is something wrong with Alain Prost's car for Eddie Cheever to be able to surge past him as he did. Good a driver as Eddie Cheever is, and he's improving all the time. Lap 29, 76 lap race. Cheever now in 6th. Now, Cheever appears to me to be catching Nelson Piquet, who is in 5th place and immediately behind Derek Warwick. And there, number 23, is Mauro Baldi, the Italian driver of the Euro Alpha. Piquet, Cheever 6th. Prost is in 7th place. Patrese is in 8th position, but a lap behind. So the field is very, very spread out now. De Cesaris is out, Arnoux is out, Bernal is out, Mansell is out, and for the first time really in this race now, we look at Jacques Lafitte.
Yes, you see him just giving it a little bit of a ride over the curb there as he came into the swimming pool section. He's in a very secure 2nd place. He's nearly a minute in front of Mark Scherer, who follows him in 3rd place, and he's not catching Keke Rosberg, 30 seconds behind him. So he has the problem of just having to stand up. And the problem is that Monte-Carlo is a very, very hard circuit physically for the drivers. As you can see, as we watch on television, there is no rest at all. The drivers get no peace. They're fighting the wheel, fighting the bumps, fighting the G-forces that the cars put through them. And it becomes really a battle to keep the body going and the brain in charge of it, and to keep the concentration and not to make mistakes. And Lafitte didn't ought to ride over curbs as he just did then, because that is one way that he can possibly damage the car and put himself out, because he's now in a very secure position, and he should be driving very conservatively. It'll be interesting to see towards the end of the race. We see Derek Warwick doing so well, fending off Piquet and both Renaults in 4th place, to see whether the exhaustion gets to him, because it really, in the second half of the race, it really becomes a little bit like marathon running. It's really a question of hanging on physically, except, of course, that you've still got to keep that fairly powerful monster under control.
I came down the hotel lift with Jacques Lafitte this morning after breakfast, and I said to him, do you want a wet race or do you want a dry race? Oh, he said, the weather is improving and I want the dry race, because that is what I am best at. And so there is Jacques Lafitte holding second position, half a minute behind race leader Keke Rosberg with 30 out of 76 laps completed. Jacques Lafitte, the Frenchman, there he is 45 seconds ahead of a magnificently charging Marc Surer in the Arrows. And there is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Derek Warwick is...
Monaco earlier on. Keke Rosberg on lap 31 was out front from his teammate Jacques Lafitte. We're now well into the 40s, and interestingly, Derek Warwick in the Tolman was going so well for Britain. James Hunt and Murray Walker, your commentators again.
You join us on lap 46 with Keke Rosberg still in the lead, but fading for some reason. His teammate Jacques Lafitte is catching him. He's in second place. But look at this magnificent track for third position, because Marc Surer in the buff Arrows there, rounding the hairpin, the Swiss driver, has been caught by a superbly charging Derek Warwick in the Tolman, who is fourth, with Nelson Piquet right behind him, number 5 in fifth position, and in sixth position is Alain Prost in the Renault, because his teammate Eddie Cheever has retired.
And we have a question mark over Keke Rosberg's apparently impregnable lead. He's dropping back. He's already dropped back something like 9 or 10 seconds to Jacques Lafitte, his teammate, who's following him. And at the moment, we can't work out why he slowed down. He has been suffering from a viral infection down here, and certainly his head appears to be rolling in the car. So it may be that he's very tired and that he's pacing himself. He's too tough a guy to just give it away like that, Keke Rosberg. I'm sure he'll do it. So whether he's pacing himself back to the rest of the field, or whether he's in some sort of mechanical... There is Keke Rosberg. Now let's have a look at him. Look very carefully at his head, his crash helmet in the car, and we will see that is the first symptom of a tired driver is the head rolling. In fact, we flash back to Jacques Lafitte in second place, who is catching Rosberg quite fast now. What we don't know, of course, is what the instructions are for the two teammates, but I'm fairly sure that Lafitte will be asked to stay in line astern and not to pass Rosberg, so long as Rosberg is heading for the checkered flag. But if he's in trouble, anything can happen.
Well, as Lafitte crosses the line, I can tell you that he's really carving into Keke Rosberg's lead. Keke Rosberg at one point led his teammate, number 2 there, Jacques Lafitte, who's in second position, by 33 seconds, and the lead now is down to 19 seconds. So Lafitte, and there is jolly Jacques Lafitte in the top left corner of your screen, and in the right, in the middle, he is coming down to the Mirabeau, gaining on Keke Rosberg all the time. Now, Jacques Lafitte on lap 48 in this 76 lap race is some about 40 seconds ahead of the battle for third position between Marc Surer, Derek Warwick and Nelson Piquet. There is the race leader, Keke Rosberg. Now, he's been going to bed at 9 o'clock every night here. He has been resting between practices. He's had a virus infection. He was very weak, and there you see his head rolling about. Rosberg is obviously very tired. I wish they'd take a picture of him without his dark glasses. He looks much better than that in real life. Rosberg crosses the line now, and I'll give you the gap as he completes 49 laps between himself and Jacques Lafitte. Rosberg up towards Casino Square. Well, the gap was, I said, 19 seconds between Lafitte and Rosberg, the race leader, and as Jacques Lafitte crosses the line, it is still 19 seconds.
Well, that was interesting. Rosberg had the tail hung well out there as he came into the Casino Square, but he really looks a little bit floppy around the head. You watch. No, not visible there particularly, but that really makes two possibilities. Maybe his car is starting to handle a bit with some difficulty because he's sliding it about, but one would expect it to be very tired. Drivers who start the race with 100% health are already very tired by this stage. It is very, very hard physically. And they have to start the debilitating effect of a viral infection. It's really a problem. But anyway, we'll keep watching to see if Rosberg can hang on.
And while this interesting development is happening at the front, and we look at the Williams of Jacques Lafitte coming into the swimming pool area, I can tell you that it's still Mark Surer in third place. Immediately behind him, Derek Warwick. Over the line goes Piquet, and in sixth position it is still, Rosberg, a slip of the tongue there. Keke Rosberg has completed the lap. I've got the stopwatch running so that I can tell you how far Jacques Lafitte is behind him. And Jacques Lafitte goes over the line as you look at Rosberg exiting Casino Square, and the gap is 18.8 seconds. So with Riccardo Patrese, the fastest man on the course at the moment, 1:27.9, which is just about 2 seconds outside his own lap record, and he is in seventh position, Riccardo Patrese, on the same lap as the race leader. And there is the battle for third position. Not the green car of Danny Sullivan. There, 29 is Mark Surer. They're coming through to complete lap 50 out of 25. And Surer, Warwick and Piquet are absolutely together. And there is Prost in sixth position. Now, Danny Sullivan, who is in ninth position, one lap behind, and there goes Surer. Surer off. Piquet through and Warwick off, and Piquet is through to third position. Warwick reversing. Is his car damaged? No, he's just spun. He's just spun.
And that's a terrible tragedy for Derek Warwick, because Surer made a mistake there, and he unfortunately included Derek Warwick in it, who was minding his own business. Challenging for third place, and Warwick has lost ground. Let's hope that his car is undamaged and that he can set off after Prost and Piquet, to whom he lost ground then. And that was really a mistake by Mark Surer. It looked to me as if he just lost control under braking. Poor Derek Warwick was unable to avoid it. Very bad luck indeed. The Tolman team deserved some results. Their efforts have been terrific, and that's not the sort of luck that they deserve.
Well, we'll have to see as this replay. Let's have another look.
Right, ignore the green car. Now we see Danny Sullivan in the green car, and there's Mark Surer behind. They brake slightly around a corner as they go into the Sandoval corner. They're past the pit exit there. And Warwick was challenging a bit, or did they make... No, they made contact. I take that back. I'm entirely wrong. Mark Surer and Derek Warwick made contact, and that was not a mistake on his own by Mark Surer. So apologies to Mark Surer. And it was difficult to tell exactly who did what to who. It's just extremely crowded there, and they both had a spin, and that was the result.
Well, you saw Derek Warwick and reversing his car, and there is the stricken, what terrible arrows of Mark Surer. And as you see now, Piquet has moved up into third, Prost to fourth as Mark Surer walks in. That means Tombe is now in fifth position, and how Mark Surer can raise a smile under the circumstances is beyond me, because he must be bitterly disappointed, and he has every reason to be, because it did not appear to be his fault that he went off. Perhaps Derek Warwick braked a little late, but anyway, Mark Surer tragically out of the race from third position, which it promotes Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW to third position, with Alain Prost right behind him in fourth position, with Patrese now in fifth position, with Patrick Tombe in sixth position, and there is the battle between now Nelson Piquet third and Alain Prost fourth, with Danny Sullivan, the American driver, in his first Monaco Grand Prix. He has driven to Monaco before in a Formula 3 race, and the two behind him are coming up to complete their 52nd lap, and so now Piquet has got ahead of Sullivan and Prost has not. So Piquet will have the opportunity now to pull away, but Piquet is now behind Elio De Angelis, who is in 10th place in number 11. Piquet passes him, Sullivan passes him. De Angelis has been having awful handling problems in the John Player Special Renault. And there is Nelson Piquet on lap 53 out of 76, and Derek Warwick, who was in fourth position for so long, has come into the pits and is out of the race effectively. I mean, he may rejoin if he hasn't had something that can't be put right. But he's out of the race from the point of view of finishing in the points. Rotten luck. Prost goes through and takes Danny Sullivan. Meantime, Nelson Piquet there, exiting the tunnel on his 53rd lap, has been able to put some distance between himself and the yellow Renault. Not all that much distance, but Alain Prost has now got to fight to regain to close up the gap between himself and Nelson Piquet. There's the Brazilian, the ex-world champion, 1981. And on lap 53 out of 76, Keke Rosberg, who is seemingly weakening physically from the way we see his head rolling around in the cockpit, is in the lead from his teammate Jacques Lafitte, who is second. There is Rosberg, who is now on his 53rd lap.
Yes, I get the impression that after what was probably a bit of a physical crisis for Keke Rosberg, he's pulled himself together and he's now holding the gap over Jacques Lafitte, and he has well over a minute on Nelson Piquet in third place. Assuming that Lafitte's not going to race into the line, I'm quite sure that if the sudden and relatively inexplicable slowing by Keke Rosberg was a physical problem, I'm sure it looks as if he's got it under control, because he's now holding the gap the same and looks to be at least coping.
And as we look at Elio De Angelis retiring from the Monaco Grand Prix, the gap between Rosberg in the lead and Lafitte, who is in second place, is now increasing. It is up to nearly 23 seconds. Rosberg rounds the hairpin, goes into the portier, into the tunnel on his 54th lap, which means to say that he has 22 laps still to go. And he's got a commanding lead of 22 seconds, increasing it over his teammate Jacques Lafitte. And are we going to see a famous, magnificent, totally unexpected, not first and second places for the Tag Williams team with their Ford Cosworth engine? I say totally unexpected because with 4 turbocharged cars in the 4 fastest places on the grid, you've seen Rosberg through. We're looking back down the course now to see Jacques Lafitte, the Frenchman who transferred his allegiance from the French Ligier team at the end of 1982, come out of the tunnel, and he is past. Jacques Lafitte is slowing. So, Jacques Lafitte, it's not Keke Rosberg increasing his speed, it is Jacques Lafitte slowing down, because Jacques Lafitte seems to be stopping and has been passed by the Euro Alfa Romeo of either De Cesare, it was Baldi. De Cesaris is out of the race, Mauro Baldi. Now, is Jacques Lafitte coming into the pits? Yes, on lap 55, Jacques Lafitte comes into the pits, and as I was talking about the possibility of a first and second, the situation changed, and Jacques Lafitte stops, and out of the race, Jacques Lafitte in second place, having held that second place virtually through the race, retires. Bad, awful luck on lap 55. So we have seen Mark Sura go out. We have seen De Angelis go out. There is the Williams being pushed backwards to remove him from the pit. We've seen now Jacques Lafitte go out. Eddie Cheever has gone out. De Cesaris has gone out. So has Arnoux and Mazel and Mansell. And there is Neil Oaten on the left with the ginger hair talking to Jacques Lafitte, and everybody getting in our way. Well, Jacques Lafitte, a tremendously popular Frenchman, and now that means to say that Nelson Piquet is in second position. Up into third place comes Prost, up into fourth place comes Patrese, up into fifth place comes Tombay, and up into sixth position comes Danny Sullivan, a lap adrift. There is Chico Serra, number 30. He is now in eighth position in the arrows. And that is the race leader. Can Keke Rosberg keep going? We just hope so.
Well, Rosberg has kept the gap to Nelson Piquet, who now moves up to second, of course. Fairly constant, and it would appear that Rosberg at the moment is under control. So his main job, as it was right from the end of the first lap when he went into the lead. He just has to stand up to win. He's got to keep his car together and, above all, keep himself together, which, with his viral infection debilitating his strength and stamina, is his main battle, is to look after himself. But he appears to be doing an excellent job at the moment, keeping it nice and smooth. And there's nothing much the others can do.
No, I don't think there is, because if Rosberg can just keep going, you see he's got 3/4 of a lap lead, because as he comes out of La Rascasse, Nelson Piquet is only rounding the Massenet at the top of the hill. 54 seconds, you saw his board there. Prost in third position, and he's only 2.6 seconds behind Piquet, and then 9 seconds behind Prost in fourth position is Patrese. So both the Brabham BMWs are in the top 4, then the Ferrari of Patrick Tambay, and a lap behind in sixth position, Danny Sullivan, on his way at the present moment to his first ever World Championship point in only his 5th Grand Prix, and that's no mean achievement. Danny Sullivan driving the Tyrrell, 33 years old, who comes from Louisville in Kentucky, but there is the man from Helsinki, Keke Rosberg, rounding Lowe's hairpin, going down to the Portier and into the tunnel with another 20 laps to go, as you see. John lap 56 out of 76. And Patrick Tambay now with the fastest lap in 1:27.9 on this circuit, which now seems to be totally dry, is 1.9 seconds outside the lap record, which is still held by last year's winner, Riccardo Patrese. Patrese put that lap record up in 1980 in the Arrows, 1:26.05, a speed of 86.1 miles an hour. Keke Rosberg down to the first gear, La Rascasse, the captain on the corner, out of it, up into second, to third, to fourth, and to fifth. And he'll go past the grandstand. He gets the thumbs up from Frank Williams. He crosses the line at the end of his 57th lap. And I've got a stopwatch running now, and I'll give you the gap between Keke Rosberg, who is climbing the hill to Massenet to round the Hotel de Paris, and the second place man, Nelson Piquet, in the Brabham BMW. And in terms of the World Championship, it means to say that at the present moment, Nelson Piquet, who's on his way to 6 points for second position, ahead of Alain Prost, who is on his way to 4 points for third position, would be in the lead of the World Championship if Piquet and Prost finish in second and third places. But with 20 laps or so still to go, you always have to make the qualification that anything can still happen, and probably will. Rosberg, the tunnel, lap 58, and Nelson Piquet is well over, well, I reckon a good minute behind. Here he is coming up to pass me, and it's 61 seconds between Keke Rosberg and Nelson Piquet, with Rosberg not far off completing his 58th lap, with Piquet second, Prost third. Piquet, as I say, 61 seconds behind Rosberg here. Prost in third position is about 2 seconds behind Piquet. Patrese is 8 seconds in fourth place. Prost, who is third. Patrick Tambay is only 1 second behind Patrese. So Patrick Tambay charging. We haven't seen him in the Ferrari for a long time. He was well up on the leaderboard in the early stages. He's got the fastest lap at the present moment. He came in and changed tyres, and he is in third position in the World Championship with 14 points. So there's going to be a very close position for the World Championship if the positions are held, and certainly if Patrick Tambay can catch and pass the fourth place man Riccardo Patrese, maybe we will have a look at it later on. But meantime, here on lap 59, the superb Keke Rosberg, fastest in the wet practice here yesterday, 5th fastest on the grid, with only 2 turbocharged Renaults and 2 turbocharged Ferraris in front of him. And I talked to him this morning on the way down to the course, And he said, I'm in 5th position, I'm going to make a flyer for the start, which he did, and he said, then I'm going to do my best. And how superbly that best has given him the lead. He took 2nd place on the first corner. He now completes his 59th lap. Let's see if Williams gives him a signal. Yes, he does. I have the stopwatch running again. He goes round Saint-Devote, the chicane there. Well, not really a chicane. You can see the red bit, they've extended the corner.
The interesting thing down the field a bit is that Patrick Tombe, who's had such a good season so far and has driven so coolly and well, is really charging. He's unlapped himself. He, of course, started on wet tyres, which was, as it turns out, the wrong decision, but it's very easy to be wise after the event. But he is right behind Riccardo Patrese. If he can get past Patrese, he will then have Alain Prost in his sights, and he also would stand a chance of catching Nelson Piquet. He's consistently putting up fastest laps. He's the fastest man on the circuit, and so a charge from Tambay could take him right up to 2nd place if he can negotiate the people in front of him.
Here is Piquet, and he's 58 seconds now behind Rosberg. And he is 4 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. And you'll see the Renault. There is the Renault in 3rd place, 4 seconds behind Piquet, who is 2nd. And the gap I will give you between Prost, who is 3rd, and Patrese, because I'm waiting for Patrese to go through, and it's going to be a very close thing, as James was telling you. Right, they're through, and there is Nelson Piquet at Lowe's hairpin, and as he takes Lowe's hairpin, Keke Rosberg has just completed his 60th lap, so he's only got 15 laps to go now, including the one that he's on in the 76 lap race. And you can see the conformation and the differences between them, or you could, on that caption there, as we look at Alain Prost in 3rd position. Here he is, out of the tunnel, down to the chicane, into the part where he lost the Renault in the lead. That's the exact point last year. He's obviously watching it very carefully this year. And he doesn't seem... There is Piquet 2nd, Prost 3rd, and we're on lap 61 with Keke Rosberg nearly a minute ahead. It's 58 seconds now. Then Piquet with Prost there in 3rd position, 4 seconds behind him. 10 seconds behind Prost is Patrese. 1 second behind Patrese, 1 second, 4/5 of a second is Patrick Tambay. Then Danny Sullivan, who has been lapped by Keke Rosberg, the leader. Then in 7th position, Mauro Baldi, who is 2 laps behind the leader. Chico Serra is 8th, Lafitte is 9th, and Surat.
And Patrick Tambay has just got past Riccardo Patrese. They've lost a little bit of time, and so... It's quite a significant step for Tambay. He now has Prost in his sights, but he is fully now 15 seconds behind Prost. So I think Patrese was in a bit of trouble, holding him up. And there's another fastest lap for Alain Prost, who's giving it a bit of a charge. The fuel, of course, the cars tend to get faster towards the end of the race. As the fuel load goes down, the cars get lighter and therefore quicker. But in the meantime, Patrick Tambay will be probably pretty angry and pretty frustrated by having to get past Patrese, because Patrese cost him something like 8 or 9 seconds on his gap to Alain Prost. But now he's got a clear road and he can set off after Prost.
And hopefully we will see him. But meantime, here is the 2nd place man and now the 3rd place man, Alain Prost, completing their 61st lap. The 2nd place man, Nelson. There is Tambay, Patrick Tambay, who is up to 4th position. The winner of the San Marino Grand Prix, the brilliant winner of the German Grand Prix last year when his teammate Pironi was injured, and in front of Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari, and about to be passed by him is Chico Serra in the Arrow. So now Patrick Tambay's next target is Alain Prost, and James has just told you that the gap is 15 seconds. So, lap 62, and as we look at the charges, promoted 4th place man Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari. Ahead of him, the race leader, Keke Rosberg, is now 56 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, second, who is 5 seconds now ahead of Alain Prost, who is 14 seconds ahead of Tombay, fourth, that we are looking at. And Tombay is now 12 seconds ahead of Patrese. Only those four are on the same lap as the leader, Keke Rosberg, and Danny Sullivan is sixth and in the points, a lap behind.
Well, Patrick Tombay will know that he's capable of catching them, and tired though he might be by this stage in the race, the adrenaline will be pumping round him, and he won't feel too tired. He'll feel very stimulated. And Tombay, you can almost see it. He's physically giving it everything he's got. He is absolutely on 11/10. There you are, riding the curve a little bit. Made a little bit of a mistake there, but that's understandable after 60 laps around Monte-Carlo, and then you've got to put on a spurt, which is what Patrick's trying to do. You'll expect the odd mistake, but he's the fastest man on the circuit just about at the moment, and chasing hard because he stands a distant chance of coming second or certainly third, and the man in his sights at the moment is Alain Prost.
Yeah, and the gap is down to 12.6 seconds. Now, number 27 is an enormously emotional number here at Monaco. It is the number of the late, very great Gilles Villeneuve, the Ferrari driver who... And that's Piquet into... Patrese into the pits, Patrese into the pits. And I was saying that number 27 is an enormously emotional number. And as we look at Riccardo Patrese, who was in fifth position, Patrick Tombay charging hard, number 27 in fourth place, is carrying the number of Gilles Villeneuve, who won here in 1981 and was so tragically killed in practice for the Belgian Grand Prix last year. And there is an enormous Italian spectator party here. Party is hardly the word. There are thousands and thousands of them, and they are positively willing. Number 27, Patrick Tombay, on as we look at the leader now. Keke Rosberg into the tunnel and now out of it on his 64th lap out of 7. Coming up to Danny Sullivan. So Keke Rosberg is about to lap for the second time Danny Sullivan, the American, who nevertheless is in the points in his first Grand Prix because he's in sixth position. Now, Rosberg will be very anxious not to lose his race rhythm here. His head seems to have steadied up a lot. That may sound a strange thing to say, but Keke Rosberg's head was positively lolling earlier on in the race, and it seems to be a lot steadier now.
Yes, it would appear that he went through some sort of crisis, a physical crisis in the middle of the race, and as you rightly say, Murray, he seems to have got it all together, pulled himself together, and is doing all right now. You saw earlier, just about half a lap ago, he gave a little wave to Danny Sullivan to point out to him that he's lapping him and would like to get through. Danny Sullivan seems to have studiously ignored that and is not being any help. And Keke's head's still a little bit unsteady, but he's undoubtedly got things under control. He's steadied the gap. He's some 50 seconds in front of Nelson Piquet in second place. He does, as we say, only have to stand up to win.
Well, Danny Sullivan and Keke Rosberg are very firm friends off the circuit. And Danny Sullivan knows that Keke Rosberg is well ahead of him. He's been lapped by him once already, and he must surely move over and let the race leader through because he's slowing Rosberg all the time. Not that Rosberg needs to worry too much because Nelson Piquet, although he's gaining, is still 49 seconds behind Keke Rosberg. And Rosberg is coming through now to complete lap 65.
He has an obligation to let the race leader through and anybody else. And there is Patrese, looks to be limping again, but he's been into the pits once already. He's just about... out of things, and there goes Patrick Tombay, who's on his big charge, and Rosberg is still can't get past Danny. Well, he got no help from Danny Sullivan. He had to finally fight his way through, and I think Danny Sullivan was showing his inexperience then, because you will notice that the top drivers, when being lapped, always let them through, and it's usually the beginners who don't and don't look in their mirrors. And you see now how fast Rosberg is opening up the gap.
Yeah, Keke Rosberg now on lap 66 in this 70th lap race, and I dare hardly say it, but only the cruelest injustice in the world would rob Keke Rosberg of a very well-deserved victory, because having taken 5th place on the grid against all the turbos, and I'm just trying to identify who that was who was touring. It's Riccardo Patrese who is touring in, and he's obviously out of the race. And I was saying that only the cruelest injustice would take victory away from Keke Rosberg. He's on his way now to another superb victory.
Yes, of course, that, talking about cruel injustices, that, of course, is the normal traditional fate of current world champions, in that cruel injustices hit them very hard, and which is why nobody has won the World Championship 2 years on the trot since when 1959 or something. Jack Brabham won it. 1959, 1960. It is more a reflection on the way God's law and lap works than on the way that drivers drive. And cruel injustices are unfortunately the expected lot for Keke Rosberg in defending his World Championship. But at the moment all goes well. He's in the lead, and he's done an absolutely magnificent race. He got it right there. Riccardo Patrese just cruising around. He's obviously in fairly terminal mechanical trouble, and it's only a question of whether he can limp back to pit to save himself a walk.
Well, this is a tremendously interesting situation, because we are now looking at the battle between Nelson Piquet for second, with Alain Prost right behind him, and these two are leading the World Championship with 15 points each. So whichever of these two finishes first will be leading the World Championship. And they are now on their 67th lap, with Keke Rosberg on his 68th lap, because they're rounding the swimming pool, and Keke Rosberg is well on his way. Rosberg is still 48 seconds on lap 68, ahead of this battle for second place between Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW and number 15 there, Alain Prost in the Renault. And Alain Prost has had a magnificent season. He won in France, he was second in San Marino, although he only finished 7th in Brazil and 11th at Long Beach. He seems now really to have got into the groove, but he's not in the groove enough to catch at the moment, let alone try to get past Nelson Piquet. Lap 68 with 8 laps to go. Keke Rosberg in the Tag Williams with the Ford Cosworth engine, and the Goodyear tyres lead by about 48 seconds. Nelson Piquet second, Prost third, Courbet fourth, Patrese out of the race. So Sullivan is up to 5th and Baldi up to 6th.
Yes, you may remember earlier in the race, Alain Prost appeared. They're just removing Riccardo Patrese's car, getting it back out of the tunnel. They're going to get it off the circuit. Earlier in the race, Prost appeared to be a little bit down on power. Eddie Cheever drove past him on the straight. Somebody else passed him on the straight. And if that's the case, there's no reason to suppose that things have improved. So even if he can catch Nelson Piquet, if his engine is down on power, as we suspect, he's going to find it very difficult to get past him. Tambay, meanwhile, has his charge seems to have petered out, and he is no longer closing the gap on Prost. In fact, he's falling back slightly. He got held up, as we saw, by Riccardo Patrese. It looks as if Tambay has settled for 4th place, and some valuable points and a good finish after an excellent drive. But the big focus, of course, is on the Prost-Piquet battle.
Keke Rosberg, hopefully from the point of view of British enthusiasts and Finnish enthusiasts, on his winning way. He is on lap 69 now. The head comparatively steady. Look on the right side of your screen and see if Frank Williams gives him a signal. Yes, there it is, plus 47 seconds. Rosberg crosses the line, 69 laps completed, and with Piquet in second position, 3 seconds ahead of Prost, who is third, who is 20 seconds ahead of Tombe, who is fourth, and then Danny Sullivan 2 laps behind the leader. In fifth position, Mauro Baldi. In sixth place, Chico Serra, seventh. Patrese out of the race, who was in eighth position. And so now things are really coming to a conclusion, and a lot of drivers are out of the race because Lafitte is out, of course, Sura, Warwick, De Angelis, Gary, De Cesaris, Arnoux, Berzel, Winkelhock, and with Riccardo Patrese disconsolately watching the race from the entrance to the tunnel as it comes into its closing stages, is Keke Rosberg now on his way to another Grand Prix victory. Funnily enough, it would be only his second, notwithstanding the fact that he's world champion, because he became world champion last year as a result of just one win at Dijon in the Swiss Grand Prix, 4 second places, 2 third places, and a fourth, to give him the necessary number of points he needed to take the World Championship. And now he's crossing the line at the end of lap 70, inevitably into the very worrying period, knowing that he's got a consistency, knowing that he's only got to pace himself to the finish, knowing that he's got to keep himself inch perfect on the corners, not to ride up the cambers and the curves and risk damaging the suspension. Certainly not to let the tail slide out and risk hitting the Armco and destroying the back of the car, and certainly not over-revving it and possibly damaging the engine. So on lap 71, round Lowe's hairpin, what was the station hairpin years ago, goes Keke Rosberg into the 40, the third gear right-hander, changes up from third into fourth into the tunnel. As he goes through the tunnel, changes up into fifth gear, emerges from it at 150 miles an hour, goes down into fourth gear from the chicane, the left to right, stays in fourth gear to take the left-hander at the back, goes back into third gear to take the left-hander on the entrance to the swimming pool. Now the right-hander, 60 miles an hour, second gear, exits the left-hander, changes up into third, 90 miles an hour, down into second gear, and now first at 30 miles an hour for La Rascasse, up into third from the old gasworks corner, to fourth gear, to fifth gear. The gap between Prost, who is third, and Tombe, who is fourth, is 23 seconds, and Keke Rosberg completes the 71 laps in the lead in this 76-lap race, ahead of Piquet second in the Brabham BMW. Prost is still third in the Renault. Tombe is still fourth in the Ferrari. Sullivan is still fifth in the Tyrrell, on his way to his first World Championship points in his fifth Grand Prix, and Baldi is still sixth in the Euro Alpha. Rosberg. And already the crowd are starting to give him the victory waves, which is extremely ill-advised, because there's still some way to go. And there's a lot of people here, incidentally, and there is Prince Rainier in the box, ready to greet the victor, who we currently expect to be Keke Rosberg, home with the laurels. And there are a lot of Finns here, all the way from Finland to see Keke Rosberg. There are also a lot of Italians here who loathe the sight of Keke Rosberg and who give him the bird in the biggest possible way whenever they see him, because they accuse Keke Rosberg of taking Patrick Tombe off in the lead for the Long Beach Grand Prix, and of course Tombe drives a beloved Ferrari, and there is nothing that an Italian will forgive if it adversely affects a Ferrari driver. Well, Keke Rosberg was about as worried about that as he would be worried about winning the Monaco Grand Prix. He just shrugged it off, gives a cheery wave, ignores the insults when they're given to him, and now he's on his 73rd lap. James, I've asked before, I'll ask again, what is going through the mind of a lead driver with a now 33-second advantage when there are only 3 laps to go?
Well, first and foremost, he is praying for the flag. I mean, it's a little bit like marathon running. In that he'll be physically exhausted, he'll be in acute discomfort, particularly as Keke had this viral infection and is not at his 100% physical best, so he'll be very uncomfy. He's done his work. All he has to do is to turn up to win, so he'll just be praying for the flag. He'll be working most hard on keeping his concentration together, not going close to the barriers, not going close to the curves. He's in no hurry at all. He's just got to look after the car and himself. So he's got to nurse the two of them round. It's interesting what to say about the Italians with their antagonism for Keke after the Long Beach incident with Patrick Tambay. It sort of reflects rather disappointingly on the general intellect of the Italian race fans, in that it takes 2 people to make an accident, and there were definitely 2 people involved in that one. The Italians, in fairness, they do get terribly heavily brainwashed by the Italian media, but I suppose maybe it reflects more accurately on the Italian media's lack of intellect.
Keke Rosberg leading on lap 74 with 2 laps to go at the end of this one. And let us look back at the Monaco Grand Prix and his superb drive, not only in the race itself but in practice, because he took 5th place on the grid with 4 turbocharged cars in front of him and an enormous number of turbocharged cars behind him. Then he went from the 5th row of the grid into 2nd place at the first corner. He then took the lead superbly. He has held it ever since. He's there now with only this lap and 2 more to go.
With regard to my last remarks, I should also say that I adore Italians, and their enthusiasm for motor racing gives it a colour and Ferrari that we wouldn't otherwise have. So whilst I am ready with the criticism, I do appreciate them, and I love Italy and Italians.
Rosberg crosses the line to complete lap 74. He is on his 75th and last lap but one, having driven a copybook race, and incidentally, all praise not only to Rosberg for driving the car superbly, but to everybody in the Williams team, to Frank Williams himself, to Patrick Head, to Frank Gurney, to Neil Oaten, and to all the rest of them, because jointly a decision was made on how to set up the car for the best possible position. And jointly, I presume, a decision was made, and you see the slick tyres now, the non-treaded tyres, to send Rosberg out on slick tyres in a situation where many cars started on wet tyres expecting there to be a wet race and therefore to need the heavy rubber wear. Well, Rosberg didn't have it. Rosberg hasn't got it, and now Rosberg, thanks to his own driving efforts and those of his team, is very shortly going to be starting his 76th and last race on his way to the 2nd victory in his career, in a situation where this is only the 2nd Monaco Grand Prix he has driven. Last year was his first, and for a variety of reasons he was never able to qualify in inferior cars. He gets the signal now. Watch out, goes the official. 1 lap to go, he says. He holds up the finger. So between Keke Rosberg and his 2nd Grand Prix win in his career, there is now less than 2 miles as he climbs the hill and goes round Massenet, the left-hander, as he goes round Casino Square, as he swings right and lets the tail swing out a bit, and he drops now down past the tip-top, round the right-hander at the Mirabeau in 2nd gear, down to the slowest corner on the course, 30 miles an hour. There is now less than a mile between this point, and Keke Rosberg's win after the finest drive in this race, without a doubt. He's round the Portier. He is through the tunnel. He is now doing 150 miles an hour. Watching the rev counter, watching the braking, watching the placing. Into the chicane, left, right, on his way to the swimming pool. Left. Now he takes, after that left-hander, the right-hander. He's doing 80 miles an hour. Now the second right at the swimming pool, 60 miles an hour. He changes up into third gear. He's up to the Raskas for the second time. And Sir Keke Rosberg, as he is in Finland, gets the cheers of the crowd. And after a superb race, the Williams team waves the Union Jack. And Keke Rosberg, with the Saudi flag waving as well, takes the checkered flag and a magnificent victory. Well done, Keke Rosberg, and that moves him up into fourth place in the World Championship.
The weather, I think, was more threatening about 2 to 3 hours ago. The clouds seem to have lifted a bit, and we've got a bit of a breeze going, so